Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Asatya Eshakarine.
I am really grateful to be with you today. Special gratitude to Gary Mohan Prabhu and Srimati Jiva Devi for having been 38 years here in 38 years faithfully serving Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada's mission here in Hartford, Connecticut. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada defines yoga as reconnecting. So the state of Connecticut. Very suitable. Place to teach Bhakti Yoga. And thank you for each one of you, those who have contributed precious time and energy of your lives to help us. Special thanks to that little baby who is teaching us how to strive for is to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. So I have come here simply to serve my dear God brother and very dear friend, Gary Mohan Ji Prabhu. And I asked him, what should I speak tonight? Baby sounds so sweet, he's attracting all our attention. He told me to speak on because I believe Snanyatra and Rathayatra are coming pretty soon. Lord Chaitanya, he attended the Snanyatra in Jagannath Puri. And at that time, they take Lord Sri Balaramji, Subhadra, Mai, and Lord Jagannath on a very beautiful asana where they are bathed, very elaborate bath, with the Panchamrita and the Panchagavya and so many pots of pure water. And Snanyatra is Lord Jagannath's birthday. It's the day that Lord Jagannath first appeared in this transcendental form. Could everyone hear? He's turning it up. Hare Krishna. It's a glorious festival. In Puri, only those who are born into families who have for generations and centuries had the specific service of bathing Jagannath during Snanyaksha. No one else is allowed to do. But sometimes in our ISKCON temples, everyone is allowed. But it is a festival where we offer this special seva. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Bhaktram Pushpam Phalam Toyam that even if you offer me a little fruit, a flower, a leaf, or water, if it is offered with devotion, I accept it. So in this way, Krishna descends into this world and gives us a message of how we can have a personal interaction with Him. Krishna appears in the form of a deity in a very special way. Srila Prabhupada explains that in the Brahma Sutra it is told Janmatyasya Yataha, that the absolute truth, or what we would call God in the West, is from whom everything emanates. And Krishna tells in the Sri Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samandata. I am the source of all spiritual and all material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So how to give the opportunity for us to worship with all our hearts? Man mana baba mad bhakto madhya jina namaskuru mami vaishyasi shakyante prati jani kriyoshime. The path of bhakti is to always remember Krishna, to become Krishna's devotee, to worship Krishna, to offer our homage unto Krishna. And Krishna promises, for one who does this sincerely, will come to me. So everything is Krishna's energy. Just as Jiva Goswami tells, the sun planet is shining limitless rays of light. And the sunshine, which is composed of that limitless light, pervades the whole universe. But still, the sun planet is the source. And Prabhupada tells there is the electric powerhouse. Because at the time of Jiva Goswami, there were not electric powerhouses. Prabhupada is giving a more contemporary idea. The electric powerhouse is the source of all electricity. And wherever you may be, as soon as you plug something into the outlet, you're connecting to the energy of the powerhouse. If you put a light bulb on, the light bulb is not light itself. It's just some glass and some other elements. But because it's connected to the source of light, the light shines through the light bulb. And in the same way, by the Supreme Truth's mercy, love, to give us an opportunity to connect with Him,
appears, makes himself present, and reciprocates with our love through his own energy. Because ultimately everything is spiritual energy, because everything is coming from Krishna, who's pure spiritual, the source of all spiritual. Darkness cannot come out of light. Darkness is the absence of light. So Krishna makes himself manifest through his energy in the form of the deity. Krishna is the deity, and Krishna makes himself manifested in his holy names, in the transcendental sound vibration of his pastimes. And he's even present within our mind when we remember him with devotion. In these ways, Krishna gives us every chance to awaken our love for him. Om apavitra pavitro va sarvavastam gatopi va yasmare pundarikaksham sabhayapyantara suchi. That whatever circumstance we're in life, if we simply remember Krishna, we become purified, because Krishna is he's pavitra, he's all pure. Srila Prabhupada gave an analogy: if you put an iron rod in fire, it becomes fire. And if you don't believe it, touch it. Glows, produces heat, it gives heat, and it burns. So that's the power of association. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata bhutanava dharmasya tadatmanam surajaya. Why does Krishna descend into this world? Why does God, the Supreme Truth, who is purely spiritual, who is Atmarama, totally self-satisfied, why come down to this world? Where there's such greed, and there's such envy, and there's such arrogance, and so many people competing with one another, declaring wars on each other, hating each other. Why would the all-pure want to come here? In the spiritual world of Goloka and Vaikuntha, the Supreme Truth is having infinitely intimate pastimes, leelas, with those who have pure love. There's Vaikuntha means no anxiety. And the light that is coming from Krishna's form, the Brahma Jyoti, the all-pervading light of Brahman, there's no greed, there's no envy. Why would Krishna want to come from the eternal abode to this world? And why will he remain always within the heart of every living being and never leaves us? No matter what we do, no matter what we don't do, there's one thing that never changes. Paramatma is always sitting in our hearts. In whatever birth we have, in whatever species we're in, wherever there's life, wherever there's the jiva, the soul, the Paramatma is seated beside. Why? Krishna tells Suratam Sarva Bhutana. Because I'm the most intimate, loving, well-wishing friend of everybody. Sarva Bhutanam, all living beings. The cockroach, the bird, the rat, the fish, the weed, the lotus flower, the tree, all the animals, all the insects, all human beings, with all the races, all religions, all castes, all sexes, everyone. Krishna is the best well-wishing friend of every living being. Those who are pious, those who are impious. And Krishna descends in this world just to remind us of that. I'm here for you. Brahma Bhuvana Loka Puna Ravatano Arjuna Mamu Vedya Kunteya Puna Janmana Vidyate. From the highest planet in this material existence to the lowest, whatever situation, suffering is imminent. Dukalayama Shashara, because everything's temporary. Nothing remains. Krishna is teaching us in Bhagavad Gita and all the other great avatars and prophets that have come to this world throughout history in all different geographical places who have established truth. They teach us how we can find shelter from all the uncertainties, all the fears and all the sufferings, from death itself, by seeking shelter in that supreme truth, in God, in Krishna. Daiviyeshu gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mame mame papadyate mayame tatarantite. Krishna tells us material energy is so powerful. It's an all-powerful energy. It's beyond us. The illusions of this world, the temptations of this world, the distractions and the fears are insurmountable. Trying to cross it is like, without a boat, trying to swim across the Pacific Ocean. If you just cry out for your father and mother like this, they take you. Krishna says, if you just cry out for my shelter, then one can easily cross beyond all the complications, implications, repercussions of karma and bondage of this material world, and achieve true happiness, to uncover the true glories and qualities of the eternal soul. So to remind us of that shelter, which is everywhere, and which is at all times for anyone, if we just make that decision to live in harmony with Krishna's directions, to live in the spirit of devotion. The basic principle by which we can achieve true peace is to understand that Krishna is the proprietor of everything. And what that means by simple deduction is nothing is mine. And Krishna is the supreme, ultimate benefactor of all living beings. Everything is meant to be utilized. Just like watering the root of a tree. By just doing that, the whole tree becomes satisfied. Or by giving food to the stomach, every part of the body becomes nourished. Similarly, when we offer our seva, our love, our devotion to the supreme root of all existence, then our love extends to every living being in all of creation. Everything is included. So this is a simple message. And that Krishna is forever. And nothing could change this. Everyone's well-wishing friend.
Confirmed.
Just about a week ago, Hartford is a lot like India. many things happening when you're trying to give a lecture. So Krishna descends, he manifests himself. Sri Radharani manifests herself in the form of the Archamurti, the deity, the holy name, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, just to give us access. The Lord that is within our heart, the Paramatma, knows that we've lost the connection. But here in Connecticut, we can reconnect. Because we've lost the connection of hearing the Lord within our heart because of such a distracted mind and such an obsessive ego. That same Lord within our heart speaks to us in the Bhagavad Gita, reveals himself in Srimad Bhagavatam, and bestows his grace through the hearts and the kindness of the devotees, the Vaishnavas. And is accessible to everyone who sincerely at any time will call on his holy names. But as the Supreme Person, as the Supreme, all beautiful, all charming, all loving, absolute truth, the highest revelation of God. Srimad Bhagavatam teaches there are various levels of understanding the one truth. There's one God, there's one supreme truth. But that one supreme truth eternally is manifesting and can be understood in three features. As the all-pervading impersonal Brahman, as the witness and friend of Paramatma within our heart, and as Bhagavan, which is considered the fullest, most inclusive and complete understanding of truth. God is the supreme lover, and God is the supreme object of love, who is all attractive, and therefore is given the name Krishna, which simply means all attractive. To have a personal relationship, Krishna comes in the form of the deity. And the deities of Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra, I'm sure in the times of coming closer to Snanyatra and Rathayatra, you will hear the story of how Krishna manifests in these forms. Wonderful story. But I'm not going to tell it. Because there's not enough time, and I'm almost out of time already, and I didn't start yet. But Krishna manifests in these beautiful forms, which are actually the manifestations of Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra's supreme spiritual ecstasy of remembering the sweetness of the love of the residents of Vrindavan. They appear in these forms and are so eager to receive our service. Why is Krishna eager to receive our service? Krishna doesn't need anything. Does he need us to bathe him? He's giving us hands, he's giving us a brain, he's giving us a body, he's giving us all the water. Does he need to be bathed? He's completely pure. He's never dirty. But he does need to be bathed. But that's his Leela. It's the Leela of Karuna, compassion. Because by our bathing him, we offer our love, we offer our care, and in doing so, Krishna's pleased by that sincerity, and our love awakens. And that pleases Krishna. To see us happy, he is happy. The greatest devotee is teaching us how to be happy by seeing Krishna's happiness. In fact, when Srila Prabhupada taught us deity worship, he said, if you feed Krishna wonderful bhoga, then you will not be attached to having to eat nice food because you're happy that Krishna's happy. If you offer Krishna beautiful clothes, then there's no need. You don't have any need to have beautiful clothes because Krishna's happy. So by seeing hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people were there chanting and just seeing Jagannath and watching all the wonderful bathing substances poured upon him and all the different rituals that are going along with it, and so many offerings, so much elaboration for the Snanyacha, and all the tens and thousands of people who are watching are in rapt attention, so happy. The idea is nobody thinking, I want to be bathed like that. Everyone's just happy that Krishna's being bathed like that. And then so many articles of food were offered to him. But then after the Rath Yatra, for about 2 weeks, Lord Jagannath goes into seclusion. And at that time, Jagannath is so intimately reciprocating with all of us. He appears to get sick. Does God get sick? Somebody could challenge. How is it possible God gets sick? Could God do anything? Of course God could do anything. That means he could also get sick. To say God cannot get sick is putting a limitation on God. This is Leela. Just to give a sense of necessity to the devotee, to put full attention on caring for him, he appears to get sick. And he goes into seclusion. And at that time, Lord Chaitanya, he could not bear being in Puri without seeing Jagannath. So he went to a place called Avalanath, very ancient temple, an ancient form of Lord Vishnu that has come from South India long, long ago. And if any of you have been to Avalanath, please raise your hand if you have been. Just outside the temple was a big stone, and Lord Chaitanya would lay in that stone and chant the names of Krishna. Radha Pavaduti Subhavitam Nami Krishna Swarupam. And as he was chanting, he was in so much deep, ecstatic love that the stone melted under him. And even today you could see the direct bodily print of Lord Chaitanya's whole body as he was laying on that stone. This viraha bhav, this ecstatic, intimate love and separation he was experiencing. Well, what was something that was even more dear to him than that? Please listen carefully. Lord Chaitanya received a message while in Avalanath that the devotees from Bengal, about 300 or 400 of them, were just coming to Puri to see him. And even though he was feeling so much separation from Jagannath, even more than that, he was feeling happiness that he could see devotees. He came all the way back to Puri just to greet the devotees. And there's a beautiful saying where the king of Puri is on top of a palace, on his roof, and he's with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Gopinathacharya, and they're showing him the devotees from Bengal coming. And he's hearing the kirtan, and he's seeing the dancing. And King Pratapa said, I have been here in Puri my whole life. I'm the king. I've seen so many kirtans. Because Jagannath Puri is considered one of the 4 dhams of India traditionally. So there are so many holy people that come and pilgrims that come throughout the ages to see Jagannath. He said, I have seen so many kirtans, but I have never seen kirtan like this. Tell me what this is. Each and every one of them, they're all so effulgent, and their singing is so sweet, so beautiful, it's capturing my heart. What is this? And the king was told, this is the special contribution to the world by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is Prem Sankirtan. Not just Sankirtan. It is Prem Sankirtan. The Sankirtan which is for the purpose of awakening praying, ecstatic, pure love for Krishna. And for those who have that love, praying is, kirtan is the expression of that love. Once Srila Prabhupada was asked, what do you hope, what is your plan of what you will achieve by chanting Hare Krishna? Srila Prabhupada's reply is, the goal of chanting Hare Krishna is to chant Hare Krishna. It sounds simple, but it's truly profound. Because Golokaya Premadana Harinam Sankirtana, this name of Krishna, this Sankirtan is eternally being chanted in the highest realm of the spiritual world by the highest, most ecstatic, intimate associates, eternal associates of the Lord. And it's come to this world to purify our hearts. So at the beginning stages we're chanting to become pure. But when we become pure, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he put garlands on each and every devotee. He embraced every devotee. He brought them all to his own house. He arranged accommodations for each devotee. Gave personal assistance to everyone, just to please them. He arranged prasad for them. Sometimes he would feed them with his own hands. They all went to bathe in the ocean, then they went to Jagannath's temple. And it's described that there is the first darshan after Lord Jagannath goes into seclusion. It's called Netrotsava, which means a festival for the eyes. And Lord Chaitanya and all of his devotees knew that this was the day of Netrotsava. It begins very early in the morning. And usually he always stood just behind the Garuda Stamba, which is in the back of the kirtan hall called Jagamohan. But on this day, because for so many days he was feeling great anticipation and separation from Lord Jagannath, he went right up to the altar with his devotees and stood there. And it's described his eyes would not even blink. He was so absorbed in seeing the beautiful smiling face of Jagannath. For hours and hours and hours. And whenever there was an offering, they would have kirtan. Wonderful, wonderful kirtan. To celebrate. Bhakti. To celebrate the eternal principle of devotion. Then Lord Chaitanya called for the superintendent of the temple of Jagannath named Tulsi, and for Gopinathacharya, Sarvabhaumabhattacharya, and said, tomorrow I want to clean the Gundicha temple. Because Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra are going to be leaving the Jagannath temple. During the Rath Yatra, there's a procession of chariots to Gundicha. And for many days he will be in Gundicha, which represents Lord Jagannath returning to Vrindavan after a long separation. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains the meaning of this cleansing of the Gundicha temple. It's very significant. And it's very accessible and practical to our everyday life. That our heart is a temple. Because Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hrideshya Arjuna Tishtati, the supreme truth is within the heart of every living being. So our heart is a temple. And if we actually love and respect Krishna, we want him to be living in a clean place. And if we're calling for him to reveal himself to us, our heart must be perfectly clean. Srila Prabhupada said like this, and this is a very important principle. We have a new temple here. Prabhupada said, when you clean the temple, you are cleaning your own heart. And Srila Prabhupada was very, very attentive to this. And he wanted us to be attentive. That everything is Krishna's property in all of existence. But in the path of bhakti, whatever we have access to, we want to utilize it the best possible way because it's Krishna's. Our body is Krishna's temple. Our heart is Krishna's temple. How important it is to keep it perfectly clean. And part of the process of doing that is like cleaning the temple building. Every single inch, every particle of this building, we have offered to Krishna. And when we invite the deity to come here, this is Krishna's home. How careful we must be that every inch is utilized in a spirit of devotion. And this applies to our own homes. For those who have families, when you make an altar in your home, that's a very serious thing. It's not just like something playful. On a very advanced level of consciousness, it is playful too. But it's also very serious. Because when we place a photo of Krishna in our home, or when we place the deity of Krishna, this home is now your temple. This is yours. And we are all here Sevites. We're all here as a family to harmonize, to be harmonized, so that you'll be happy here. And if we have this spirit at home, then just living at home with the family is the path of the highest perfection. Whatever we cook, Krishna, we will cook what pleases you and offer to you. And our interactions with one another are going to be in a congenial way because we're in your abode that will be pleasing to you. And how nice and clean, sattvic everything should be. So Lord Chaitanya, he said, I want to personally clean. I want 100 brooms and 100 pots, clay pots for carrying water. said, we can clean the temple. My dear Lord, you shouldn't have to clean the temple, but if you really want to clean the temple, then we'll help you clean the temple. And the next day, this was such a festival, so much joy. Cleaning a temple. What is the happiness of something? The happiness is not just what we do, but why we do it, how we do it, and who we do it with. That makes something wonderful. Sweeping. Is that a blissful festival? Everybody just sweeping, little brooms. And in India, in those days, they didn't even have handles on the brooms. You know those kinds of brooms? They're just the straws, and they're just bound up on the top. They're about this big, and you have to get up. You have to get on your knees, or else, bend down and on your feet, and getting all the way down, and sweeping, 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 sweeping. And for hours, they were just sweeping and sweeping the dust. And Lord Chaitanya was really trying to inspire them. He said, I want every single particle of dust, straw, and sand removed from this temple. And it's a huge temple. And from the courtyard, and from the altar, and from the kitchen, and from all the different aspects of Gundicha. And it's really old, too. And after they swept everything for hours, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, I want everyone to sweep again to find finer particles of sand, straw, and dust. And they're sweeping and sweeping and sweeping, and Lord Chaitanya wanted to give a type of very devotional competition. He said, whatever straw and dust you sweep and you collect, put it in a pile. And whoever has the biggest pile, I will give you special prasad. And everybody, there was several hundred devotees. And all together, they made a pile. And Lord Chaitanya, single-handedly, his pile was far bigger than all the several hundred put together. That was his enthusiasm to clean. It was samadhi, it was ecstasy. Cleaning, cleaning, sweeping, sweeping, and sweeping. How is this? Such a joyful festival, doing something so simple. When Krishna's in the center and we are all harmonized and united to please Krishna, that's a festival. That's kirtan. Sankirtan, we're all chanting, and the joy of the kirtan is not, how impressive our dance steps are. The joy of the kirtan is not just the melody and the voice of the singer. The joy of the kirtan is we are all united without false egos to inspire one another to connect with Krishna, to love Krishna by loudly chanting Krishna's holy names.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
I think I'm really putting all of you asleep. At least try to wake each other up.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Something like that. And after they swept and they swept and they swept, and nobody could detect. If you've gone to Puri, it's near the beach. There is sand everywhere. As soon as there's the slightest breeze, sand gets blown into somewhere. What to speak of dust? But there wasn't any particle to be seen in the temple because the devotees were so enthusiastic. And then that was just the beginning. Then Lord Chaitanya signaled, now we must wash it. No, there were no hoses, which was really good. There's a place called Indrajumna Sarovar. And it's a very holy lake that has a very ancient history. And it's like almost half a kilometer or something away from the Gundicha temple, maybe more. And devotees were all the way there, and they were taking the clay pots, and there were actually hundreds and hundreds of clay pots, and they were dipping it in, and they were in lines and handing to another devotee, until the clay pot finally reached Gundicha, and then there was hundreds of pots of water already right there in the Gundicha temple, and they were just waiting. They were so enthusiastic. This is so exciting. More exciting than any Hollywood blockbuster movie. No special effects could capture or grasp a second of this experience. Everyone's just waiting with their buckets of water in hand, and then Lord Chaitanya indicated, now. And everybody started throwing their buckets of water, and meanwhile, hundreds of more buckets were being passed from person to person. It was a constant stream of water, and they were cleaning the floors, cleaning the walls, cleaning the ceilings, cleaning the altar, cleaning the kitchen, cleaning the courtyard, cleaning everything, non-stop. And nobody said a single word except Krishna or Hari. Whatever was needed to be communicated in this operation, they would just say Hari Hari, Krishna Krishna, and everybody knew exactly what they meant. It's the communication of the heart. It was the only word being said, and there wasn't a rule that this had to be. It was just spontaneous because Krishna was so much in the center. They were just exchanging Krishna. And it describes how there was so much water, and then they released all the water, and the water flowed out of the Gundicha temple, and it just flooded all the areas outside. And then Lord Chaitanya and all the devotees started polishing. Lord Chaitanya, with his own clothes, he was polishing the walls and polishing the floor and polishing the altar, and everybody else was doing it. And then Lord Chaitanya said, more water! And they did it again. This was a festival of devotion. How the most wonderful, enjoyable festival can be based on the simplest thing is just sweeping and cleaning something. Simple, but so deep. Because the joy of anything is in the love, the sincerity of our intent and the love that we're exchanging. That's what gives anything fulfillment and satisfaction to the heart. And there's nothing that gives more fulfillment and satisfaction to the heart than devotees sharing Krishna with each other for Krishna's pleasure. And that is the festival of Gundicha Marjanam, the cleansing of the Gundicha temple. And after they cleansed and they cleansed and they cleansed, and it was all shiny, clean, and polished, every place, then Lord Chaitanya was satisfied. And this represents the attention, the sincerity, and the joy that each devotee is meant to clean the temple of their own heart with the holy names, with seva. And by following regulative principles, by living with character and purity, we're not bringing in any more new dust. When we chant the holy names in our japa and our kirtan, when we study Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, when we hear these narrations, when we're with each other, when we come before the deity for darshan, we're bathing our hearts, we're bathing our consciousness with pure transcendental grace, mercy. To inspire each other, to be well-wishers in this way with each other, is truly a devotional community, as Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada, and our acharyas have taught us. Then Lord Chaitanya brought them to the Narasingha temple, which is just close by, and they did the same thing there. And then when everything was so clean, they all had a wonderful kirtan to celebrate. They had kirtan before they started, they were singing kirtan while they were doing it, and then they had kirtan to celebrate that they completed it. During this kirtan, Advaitacharya, he had a son named Sri Gopal. Lord Chaitanya looked at Sri Gopal and said, Gopal, dance and chant the names. And Gopal chanted very loudly and danced for a moment, then to try to revive him. And then all the devotees who loved Advaita Prabhu so much and who loved Gopal so much, they all gathered around in a big circle, and they were all chanting and chanting and chanting and crying. Now this is interesting. If we know a person's not their body, why do we cry when they die? Why does it rhyme? Cry, die. Because they're so connected. You see, when Advaita was crying because his son appeared to have lost his life, he wasn't crying in illusion. The illusion is that that soul no longer exists, that that person I love is gone. But the body is a medium in which we could interact, reciprocate with the soul within the body. And at the time of what we call death, when the soul leaves that body, then we no longer have that medium by which we can connect with that eternal, precious soul who is a part of Krishna. So when a devotee leaves this world, we celebrate the good fortune of the soul passing to a higher place or back into the arms of the Lord. But we cry because the medium of that body, which was the way we could so wonderfully communicate and interact, is no longer. But the presence of that person is even deeper in our heart in those feelings of separation. And the love can continue and even be greater. So they were crying and they were chanting so loud. And Gopal was laying there lifeless. Then Lord Chaitanya, he walked over to little Gopal and he said, Gopal, get up. Gopal jumped up and began chanting and dancing. Chief Jaco, Chief Jaco. Gauda Chandra Bole, Kota Nidra Jaya Maya Pisa Chira Kode. And we're all in a sleeping state. But when the devotees really are showing mercy on us, when the devotees are praying for us, when the devotees are chanting for us, when the devotees are caring for us, then the Supreme Lord pays special attention to awaken us from our spiritual slumber to our original nature. after this, there was a big feast. And this seems to be a good time to end because these are probably very hungry. What time should I end? And what time is it?
It's up to you. I mean, you can go on and on. I don't think anybody would mind. We have to have Archie next.
What time is Archie?
When you finish.
You're so specific. And Lord Chaitanya wanted to serve the prasad to everyone. He loved to serve the devotees. But there were two problems. One problem is nobody would eat until after Lord Chaitanya ate. Lord Chaitanya was serving everyone. So everyone was just sitting there with the food on their plates. And they wouldn't eat. And two is Lord Chaitanya was so generous. His heart. You see, for a devotee, our actions, our words, our thoughts are all in harmony with our hearts. That's bhakti. So Lord Chaitanya was so generous, and prasad means mercy. He was so generous in giving mercy to others that his hand held no less than what 5 grown men could eat. So every time you put a handful of prasad on someone's plate, it was 5 times more than that person could eat. Now that's a problem. In those days, you know, you're supposed to eat everything on your plate. So the devotees were happy Lord Chaitanya was serving, but they were also, they didn't know what to do. So then Swami Damodar Goswami, who was the most exalted scholar, the most extraordinary musician, the most elevated Rasika Bhakta, who had realized the most elevated mellows of love. He said to Lord Chaitanya, nobody will eat before you eat, so you sit down and I will serve. And people like Damodar Pandit and Kashishwar Pandit and Swami Damodar Goswami, the most Jagadananda, the most exalted senior leaders, they all were serving prasad to all the others, joyfully. But that wasn't the end. Lord Chaitanya started eating, everyone else started eating, but Lord Chaitanya is in the heart of every living being, and since he was discouraged from serving himself, he was the director. Kind of like the, what is it? The orchestra leader of an orchestra. He knew whatever preparation any devotee, and there were hundreds and hundreds of devotees and so many other people too. There were so many people there taking prasad. He knew what everyone liked. And he would tell the servants, give him sukta. Give this person sak. Give this person rice and tea. Give this person rasgulla. And the servers were running and giving every person what they wanted, and nobody ever had to ask for anything. But then it went beyond that. Lord Chaitanya kept feeding them more and more and more by directing the servers, until everyone, according to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he said everyone was filled up to their necks. Have you ever had that experience? Imagine that. When we really eat a lot, it's like our stomach's full. But did you ever feel that you ate so much that not only is your whole stomach full, but your whole body up to your knees? Chaitanya, he would give everyone garlands, and he would give everyone chandan, and it made everyone so happy, and he had everyone chanting the holy names. And in this way, they had the festival of cleansing the Gundicha temple. And now that everything was prepared, soon after came the day of Rath Yatra. And that's something that we can discuss in the future. Our Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us this simple principle, and Prabhupada explained the most profound pastime of the highest revelations of spiritual realization. He explained it so simple. He said the Rath Yatra is bringing Krishna back into our hearts. The procession of taking the chariots of Balaram, Subhadra, Jagannath, and Sudarshan Chakra to the temple of Gundicha represents bringing Krishna back into our hearts. And that is what Bhakti Yoga is, bringing Krishna back into our hearts. Srila Prabhupada, when he was just a little boy, he wanted to organize Rath Yatra. He was living in the neighborhood of Calcutta. His father and mother, they wanted to encourage their little son Abhay in every way. So they were not wealthy people. But they went to try to find a little... That sounds like I'm supposed to end the class. I've become very sensitive to subtle hints in my life. But I'll end with this little story that we all know, but we want to speak again and again and hear again and again. So Srila Prabhupada explained his father went to look for a little wagon where he could make it, and there was a little... They couldn't afford what they wanted, but one man was so sympathetic, seeing little Abhay. He was just 4 or 5 years old. He wanted this Rath Yatra so much, he said, I will make the wagon for him. I will make the chariot. And he made a wonderful little chariot. Srila Prabhupada organized Rath Yatra, and he would do this every year. He would take the deities of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and go through the courtyard of the Radha Govinda temple in Calcutta, and through the little lanes of Calcutta. And he would have all his old friends, and he would try to get all the parents, and they would be dancing, and they would be singing. And he used to go to little shops and ask for kichoris so he could distribute kichoris. He'd keep them in his pockets and give them out to people. And then, many years later, I believe it was 1967 or 8, he established the first Rath Yatra in the history outside of India in San Francisco. And it started in a very simple way. But Srila Prabhupada was so enthusiastic. He wanted to share this wonderful festival with the whole world. And he drew some little sketches for Shyam Sundar to build a wonderful chariot, just like, not the same size, but the same style as in Puri. And Prabhupada named San Francisco New Jagannath Puri. Amazing. from the city of St. Francis to the city of Jagannath. It's a perfect harmony. Jagannath is the Lord of the universe. That's the name. And then San Francisco, so many places. And Prabhupada would go in Los Angeles, in Chicago, in Hamburg, in Philadelphia. And there was a special Rath Yatra in London, where Shyam Sundar again built the cart. Shyam Sundar Prabhu. It was a wonderful chariot. It was a huge chariot. And right at the beginning of the parade, the axle broke. And it seemed like a disaster. Prabhupada wasn't there. But Prabhupada was waiting for the report. And when they explained the report, we built this big chariot, and we spent the whole night bringing it, you know, to the beginning of the festival. And as soon as we started, the axle broke. And the police only were blocking the streets for a certain amount of time, and they were saying, get out of here, get out of here. And the devotees had to pick up all the deities and be dancing with them. Just carrying them. And Srila Prabhupada wanted to encourage the devotees so much. He said, this is very good that it happened like this, because now the people of London, they felt sorry for you. So they were feeling for you. So that's good. But next time, be more careful how you build these chariots. A little later, there was a glorious Rath Yatra in London, and Prabhupada was there. And he danced from the beginning all the way to Trafalgar Square. Even though his health was not good, he danced the entire Rath Yatra. All over the place. And then, I believe it was 1976, the first Rath Yatra in New York City. Srila Prabhupada came to New York City in 1965. He said, at that time I had no friend, I had no means. I was practically wandering like a vagabond. But he had such deep compassion in his heart. His wonderful home in Vrindavan was there waiting for him. And he had return ticket and Jaladuta any time he wanted to return. But he remained. Because he felt such deep compassion, such deep love for Krishna and for all living beings that he wanted to share. And from that small beginning, he wandered for almost a year, just being shifted to different little places, sometimes in the Bowery. He started writing, and then somebody broke in and stole his typewriter and stole all his manuscripts, and he had nothing. From that little beginning, just 10 years later, the New York City government and police were reserving the most important street, 5th Avenue, for the Rath Yatra. Jayananda Prabhu, one of Prabhupada's dearmost disciples, who at that time was his last stage of leukemia, a type of cancer. He could hardly walk. He led the building of those chariots. The most glorious chariots our movement had ever seen since the chariots in Jagannath Puri. And they're surrounded by thousands, tens and thousands of people of New York, police escorting Jagannath with their motorcycles. And their police cars. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of devotees from all over the world chanting the holy names. Prabhupada was sitting on Subhadra Devi's cart, looking down. And very soon, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's grace, Radhanath will be here in Hartford, Connecticut. Because bhakti is a thing of the heart. And it's also Hartford. And bhakti is connecting to our own hearts. Hartford, Connecticut. I better stop right here. Thank you very much.
Radhanath Swami Maharaj ki
Jai! I don't know if you want to take any questions or not. No? So we should just let Archie. Okay, so